There's been a lot of hype for 5G for the last 2 years or so. It's starting to sound like the promises of nuclear fusion, which, as you know, has been the hope of our energy future for the last 60 years or so. 5G seems like it's more concrete, however, with real reproducible science behind it and major investments by large corporations and governments. The true test of whether anything is close to reality is if people are willing to see if they can make money off of it. We thought we'd jump on the hype train and catch some of that 5G love on this episode of BTP Fusion. What's up, you guys? This is BTP Fusion. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Derek West. Let's dive right into the content of the video. So what is 5G? And why are smart people thinking it could revolutionize the world as we know it? First things first. All of the G's, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, etc., represent the generations, the G in 5G, of cellular technology. 1G technology was originally developed by the military and was in civilian use since the mid to late 1980s. It was, and is actually, mostly similar to old radio technology that has been around since the end of the 1800s, but was utilized by having a radio receiver and transmitter in the user's device. Before we go much further, let's talk about the science and engineering technology that goes into 5G. So full disclosure, I got a master's degree in this field of technology way back in the early 2000s. Right around 2005, actually. My knowledge might be a tad bit rusty. Luckily for me, I have the search engine DuckDuckGo to help back me up. That said, the physical phenomenon that 99% of modern communication technology is based off of is that of electromagnetic energy, specifically the electromagnetic spectrum. To be precise, it's the same phenomenon that allows for the propagation of light, which we're all very familiar with, possibly. So most of us recognize light as the colors of the rainbows that we see each and every day. We perceive the information about objects in our direct field of vision by the rods and cones in our eyeballs, which take the electromagnetic energy and translate it into objects in our minds. Neato, huh? Machines and computers and cell phones can perceive electromagnetic energy as well, except they don't use organic rods and cones, but instead use antennae. In addition to that, whereas visible light is perceived by humans in the light subset of the electromagnetic spectrum, 5G and older generation cellular communication is built on the radio subset of the electromagnetic spectrum. This spectrum includes frequencies up to the millimeter wavelength, where governments in recent years have allowed entities to begin operating in, and thus we have the beginnings of the push for 5G technology. 5G is a new kind of network, a platform for innovation that will not only enhance today's mobile broadband services, but will also expand mobile networks to support a vast diversity of devices and services and connect new industries with improved performance, efficiency, and costs. That's the line that they give us anyway. 5G is said to be able to redefine a broad range of industries, with connected services from retail to education, transportation to entertainment, and everything in between. There are some people who see 5G technology as transformative as the automobile and electricity. Now, to understand why people think this, let's look into a couple of the applications that we know of so far. First things first, there'll be improvement to the type of device you're probably using right now to watch this video, your smartphone. The improvements would include much faster download speeds. As an example, the Qualcomm Snapdragon X50 5G modem is designed to achieve up to 5 gigabytes per second download peak speed. Now that's just the spec, of course, but time will tell when more of this infrastructure is built out what the true real-world speeds will be. And as you know, that's not necessarily the theoretical limit either. And as you probably have experienced in your real life, the spec can be a little bit different than the real-world download speed. Now that said, the speed increase isn't even the best possible feature for cell phones and other connected devices. The upgrade in network capacity and minimum latency promises to be even more revolutionary for this next generation of cellular services. This will offer a true implementation of what everyone's been calling the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things will be poised to truly take off and allow for millions and billions of devices to connect to the Internet simultaneously in your local area, potentially allowing for automation of various tasks, including things like driving. Now, we've been hearing about autonomous driving for a couple of years now, but with a functioning 5G network, autonomous driving vehicles are that much more feasible. The reason being that if you could communicate with other vehicles and objects in a reasonable manner, you could avoid collisions with those vehicles and objects. This would allow for safer travel of all vehicles on the network and thus more speed through those networks. And I'm talking about driving speed for autonomous vehicles, not necessarily bit speed. But that said, combined with the possibility of electric cars, as well as drone taxis, and the Jetson-like future that we all thought would be here by now may not be that far off. In addition to that, the effects on our economy are also expected to be enormous. A landmark 5G economy study initiated by Qualcomm, linked in the description, states that the 5G value chain, i.e. equipment manufacturing, operators, content creators, Yours truly. App developers, also yours truly. And consumers, again, yours truly, could alone generate up to 3.5 trillion, that's with a T, overall aggregate revenue by 2035 and support up to 22 million jobs. That doesn't even account for the many emerging and new applications that are yet to be completely defined or even known today. That's why most smart people say that only time will tell what the full 5G effect is going to be. Very similar to what the smartphone effect was going to be. People at the time of the smartphone invention had an idea of what the app economy was going to be, but it wasn't until it was actually realized did the true full value become apparent. Now, it's starting to sound like all upside, right? So what's the holdup? So first things first, there's no such thing as all upside. There's always trade-offs with everything, and 5G is no different. With all the hype comes the effort to make it a reality, and that effort is going to cost a lot of blood and treasure. A key issue in the scale and timing of 5G network adoption is the cost of building out the infrastructure to support faster data, and the perceived return on that huge investment. Large chunks of currently existing telecom infrastructure must be upgraded and expanded. That includes laying out microcell towers and the fiber that is needed for it in large city centers. Another part of that is making the infrastructure of the telecom networks more nimble and cloud-like. Backing up for a second. Part of the reason why the app economy took off is that a lot of apps and companies embraced a cloud-first mentality. That is to say, move the business functionality off of on-premise servers that can be expensive to set up and maintain, not to mention scale to millions of users, but instead use cloud service providers such as Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Provider or Azure to really only utilize what you need when you need it, thus allowing your business to flex to the demand of your customers. A lot of telcos up until now had the opposite philosophy, particularly when applied to their routing software. But back on track, some of the investments these companies will be making is to migrate their data centers to software-defined networking centers, which will help to separate the programming of routers and switches from the underlying hardware, which will in turn simplify the management of networks so administrators can automate many network functions while dynamically managing their network operations. So the investments that need to be made by various companies and large telcos like Verizon, AT&T, et al. Are real, and they are large. Part of the problem for them, though, is they have a hard time seeing the upside and the possible return. Now, in places like South Korea, where 5G technology is currently being rolled out at a faster pace, there are no plans for premium service offerings. Pay more for better service. There also aren't any unlimited tiers of service planned either. And we haven't even covered the health concerns that many people feel will be brought along with the rise of 5G. A couple of US cities have banned the rollout of this infrastructure in their communities. And quite a few people in the US have concerns over the safety of cell phone technologies in general. Many people who have concerns over cell phone technology cite studies with fertility in males and females, cancer risks close to transmission lines, and several things like that. Studies from telecommunication companies, and even the Center for Disease Control that cannot find links between cellular telephones, really radio spectrum, communication technology, and cancer and fertility issues do not seem to allay any concerns. Because let's be real, nobody trusts the CDC, and no one trusts that cell phone companies are doing real research to prove that their product is essentially poisonous. So, that's the thing that people fear. Even with that, there are some legitimate performance concerns. Now, there's a video out there by Marquise Brown Lee on 5G. He does a very good job describing the technology from an end user perspective. I'm gonna link to it somewhere in the description up here. And he also has a pretty good follow-up video. Shout out to that guy, as his videos are really, really solid. In those videos, the limitation of the current technology rollouts become apparent, because the technology is based on high-frequency, short wavelength technology. Things like trees and buildings significantly impact the effectiveness of the signal. And as the distance between the user and the many base stations increase, so does the latency for the 5G technology. And it doesn't have to be a great distance. It could even be just as little as 50 feet, or even being around a corner. And assuming you do get a good signal, the energy used by your cell phone to download and even upload can be quite extensive, as illustrated in his video by the poor battery performance and the hot phone in his hand. That may just be a function of how different companies choose to roll out their 5G infrastructure, however. In his second video, he went on to do speed tests in LA for T-Mobile, which has since merged with Sprint. The differences in the part of the spectrum where they've chosen to roll out their 5G mobile infrastructure has allowed T-Mobile to actually have 5G signals at much greater distances than Verizon, which as of this recording is right now working on the millimeter band rollout of their technology. Now, the blazing speeds that are possible on millimeter band aren't possible on mid-tier and long-tier band infrastructure, but there is definitely a speed boost that is noticeable. So it's really about the rollout strategy. Even with that, there are ever-present geopolitical concerns, particularly the ongoing trade tensions between the US and China, and the implications of said trade tensions. Now, that deserves a completely separate video all on its own. And if you like and subscribe while clicking that notification bell, you'll be among the first to see it when it drops very soon. That said, investment opportunities around 5G are probably not where you think that they should be. Wireless firms such as Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile are obvious plays which may see some upside. Companies like Qualcomm, Qorvo, and Skyworks Solutions are among the infrastructure plays that likely will see the most upside from this revolution. You want to think about companies involved in testing and measuring signal strength to see a slight uptick in the upcoming year. Companies like Analog Devices, Marvell Technology, and Infineon. Again, an entire video could be made on the investment plays one could make for the 5G revolution. And again, be sure to like and subscribe and click that notification bell so you're the first to know when that video drops. So, guys, 5G is a technology that's coming real quick. It promises to revolutionize the world and the technology that we all know and love. Because of it, in 5 to 10 years, we may not even recognize the technological landscape that we're in, very similar to how the app economy revolutionized the economy that we used to be in. So, we'll catch you guys next time. Peace, everybody. Take it easy.